Joining me now, Congressman Adam Smith, Democrat from Washington State, ranking member on the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, thank you very much for being here. You worked on the original NDAA legislation. Your thoughts on what they did with that original text and what comes next?
Well, I think the policy that the Republicans are advancing is obviously part of their larger agenda and is extremely problematic for the Department of Defense. I mean, normally we make the decision to work on this in a bipartisan way. So certainly it's troubling that Speaker McCarthy chose not to do that. But I want to make sure that people focus on the policy that they're trying to advance. The bill they passed will make it less likely and more difficult for women to serve in the military, for trans people to serve in the military. And it'll also make it less likely that people of color get an adequate chance within the military because it will not address those issues. What that means is, in a time when the Department of Defense is struggling to meet its recruitment goals, it'll be even more difficult because we will have large pools of people who will be less likely to join the military. It'll make that problem worse. And also, as you watch the debate play out over the course of the week, you picked the most egregious clip to show there, but it was really just the bigotry on display about trans people, about the history of this country. We had one amendment to repeal the efforts of the Base Renaming Commission, something we did when I was chairman of the committee, to change the names of all the bases that had been named for Confederate leaders, names that were changed during a period of time when our country was literally trying to establish white supremacy. That's why the bases were named what they were named. And we had Congressman Good from Virginia go on and on about how we need to honor our history. The exact same arguments that were made at the end of Reconstruction when this country established the Ku Klux Klan and Jim Crow. So the depth of the ignorance on display, well, I hope it's ignorance at any rate, means that we are attacking the diversity of this country and undermining our national security.
Well, I mean, yeah, the ignorance on display, but unfortunately, the Speaker of the House helps to perpetuate it and further it along. Listen to what he had to say after the vote.
Just focus on the military. Stop using taxpayer money to do their own wokeism. A military cannot defend themselves if you train them in woke. We don't want Disneyland to train our military. We want our men and women in the military to have every defense possible, and that's what our bill does.
Congressman, I don't even know where to begin with that. But your thoughts on that?
I think this is really important because what we're trying to wrestle with here is the history of race in this country. And what the Republicans want to pretend is that there is no history. Okay, that, to the extent that racism was a problem, it was something that really wasn't that big a deal, and it was a long time ago, and it's not something we need to think about. But this has practical, real-world consequences. And the practical, real-world consequence is, if you are a person of color or also a woman or a part of the LGBT community, you're going to wonder whether or not you're going to get a fair shake in the military. Until 13 years ago, gay people were banned from serving in the military. The Republicans have repeatedly banned trans people from serving in the military. Women have been consistently facing higher barriers. In fact, one of the more memorable moments of this debate happened in committee when we were arguing about the abortion policy and how difficult it was for women to serve and how we needed to be more welcoming for the women. And there was a member whose name I forget, I apologize, a woman who had served in the military. And she said, look, this isn't a problem. I served in the military, and I knew when I was in the military I had to work twice as hard as the men to get the same result. But that was okay. No, it's not okay. And if you're a woman today and you're thinking about whether or not you're going to join the military, and they're telling you, well, you can join, it'll be fine. All you got to do is work twice as hard as everybody else, and maybe you'll get the same opportunity. You're not going to do that. And the same applies very specifically to African Americans. Yes, the military has been welcoming, by and large, and letting African Americans join. But when you look at promotions, prior to a couple of years ago, when we finally started to begin to slowly make up for it, the number of African Americans serving in leadership positions was pathetically low and still is. So they're not getting those opportunities. So what diversity, equity, and inclusion does is it tries to recruit more aggressively from historically discriminated against populations and to make sure they're going to be treated fairly in the military. That strengthens us. Embedding old racist ideas does not make us stronger. And that's the big concern here about where this bill went. And they just keep saying woke, 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 because apparently that's really a trigger word, if you will, for the right wing. But what they're doing is undermining our military.
Yeah, woke, 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 woke is catnip for conservatives. But let's talk about another real-world consequence of what happened in the House yesterday. Yeah, great. Speaker McCarthy got a victory. That bill passed, squeaked by with 219 votes. You need 218 to pass anything in the House. Now it goes over to the Democratic-controlled Senate, where the thing is dead on arrival. So one of the real-world consequences we're facing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Congressman, is that we're headed to a government shutdown, because there's no way the Senate is going to pass what the House passed. And once you get into a conference committee where the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene will be sitting, there's no way the two sides are going to come to any kind of agreement that will make the NDAA pass, make it possible for any of these other bills to pass, and to keep the government funded once the funding runs out on September 30th, right?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, so I'll try to do this quickly. First of all, it's the appropriations bills that would shut down the government, not the NDAA. But here's the thing. The appropriations bills working their way through the House, they're worse than the NDAA. They are more extreme and more problematic and even less likely to see the light of day in the Senate. So you are correct. We are screaming towards a government shutdown. And I really want to emphasize one point. The bill that we passed out of the committee, in the Armed Services Committee, would have passed on the floor of the House with about 360 votes. Chairman Mike Rogers, who's the Republican chairman of the committee, completely agrees with me on this point. So we had a bill that would have been enthusiastically embraced by the overwhelming majority of Republicans and Democrats. But what Kevin McCarthy had to have was a bill that was enthusiastically embraced by the Freedom Caucus. They're doing the same thing to the appropriations bills. And yes, you are absolutely correct. Neither the appropriations bills nor the defense bill will pass the Senate. And then the Freedom Caucus will do what they do, which is if they don't get their way, even if the overwhelming majority of the House and the Senate disagrees with them, they will shut the place down. And what we've learned is Kevin McCarthy will let them.